Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Study and Win a Prize session. I'm happy to see you all here today again. We missed you very much last week, just like you guys missed us. We decided to take a break to rejuvenate and plan to make this better. So if you're on the call, say hello and tell us where you're joining us from, how the rest was. Was it a shock to you that we didn't have a study session last week? How did it come out to you? Were you able to follow through? Or what was it at your end? Hello, Nike. How was it? Nike, were you expecting to see us last week? Did you join this? Did you look for a link to join the stream and you did not see? Oh, Chris. Okay, Chris. Chris, thank you for coming all the way from Liberia. Yes, Chris is joining us from Liberia, representing Liberia. That's good. Nice to have you here, Chris, all the way from Liberia. So, how is the weather over there in Liberia? Here in Nigeria, it's the weather is cool. I'm in River State, Nigeria, and the weather is cool. It's interesting. And then for last week, we intentionally did not hold a session last week. We needed it to unwind, prepare, and make it better to come back and give you everyone the best training. So we used last week to recoup, to replan, to go back, to know how to make things better for everyone. So today we have Promise on the call that is going to take us through CloudTrail, Lake, AWS and AWS configuration integration. So we're going to learn a whole lot. So let's sit back and prepare. And remember, at the end of this session, we're going to have a prize after playing the quiz. So if you are yet to follow us on all our social media platforms, do well to follow us. Search for AWS Cloud Security User Group West Africa. Yes, you have to put West Africa because we're not just, most of us are based in Nigeria, but we are covering the whole of West Africa. So permit me to welcome the speaker for today's event in the person of Promise Nwachukwu. Hello, Promise. Good evening. How are you? Are you on the call?
Hello, Blessing. Yes, I am doing great. I don't know. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly well. So, Chris, we have Chris
Good.
all the way from Liberia joining us, and it's good to have Chris. I think others, maybe our listeners are also late, or maybe they are also thinking that maybe we had took a break. That's why most of them are not here. We miss likes of Tolu, Fauzia, those that are faithful attendees
Yeah.
that are always coming and joining us.
I
So
remember I remember Fauzia very well. She's always winning our prizes. Let's see if she does the same today or maybe
I'll have to go and rally them and ensure that they come here today. So, without wasting further time, hello everyone. Hey, Tolu is here with us today. Tolu is here with us. I think we're having a little network error, and Promise has dropped off the call. So give us a little time and he'll be back on the call. Tolu, how are you? Did you miss us last week? How do you feel? How was last week? I missed you last week personally. I missed you last week. I didn't see you last week. So how was it? Hello, Tolu. Can you hear me? Oh, very well. That's great. So if you can hear
Wow.
me, please back. We lost you there.
Yes, I'm so sorry about that. I'm so sorry about that. I think there was a break in my internet connection, but are you able to hear me clearly now?
Yes, I'm able to hear you clearly, and I'm sure everyone. Oh, Tolu also had a busy
All right.
time last week, so it's a
Oh,
win-win for all of us.
interesting, interesting, interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. In order not to take so much of the time, I know everyone has been like, why is a break? But I mean, sometimes it's always good to, to take this break, observe some rest, and come back fully recharged. All right. So at this time, I think I would just proceed with the session so
Okay.
that we all are able to participate. All right. Just a minute. Let me bring up my slide. Yes, just a minute. All right. Okay. My slide is up. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Promise Nwachukwu. I am one of the leaders for the AWS Cloud Security User Group. And today I have an interesting topic I would like to talk about. And those of you who are very familiar with AWS may one time or the other have, used this particular service. But I mean, for those who are not so familiar with the service and those who haven't heard of this would be a great time to be able to know about the service and understand more about it. Today I'll be talking about AWS CloudTrail Lake and AWS CloudTrail Lake integration with AWS Config, right? So I know it's spelled the other way around, but I mean you get the gist. So the idea is basically there has been an existing AWS CloudTrail service and there has been an existing AWS config service. Now, AWS found out that there was a need for us to carry out some form of identity verification to understand what happens inside of the AWS CloudTrade log and probably understand who is carrying out these activities. And then they brought about the integration of the CloudTrail into the AWS config so that you can basically tie whoever is carrying out an action to in AWS using AWS config to when and what is being changed or modified in your AWS CloudTrail logs. But don't get yourself worked up or confused. The idea of this training is to enlighten you more about these two services that have been integrated together. So, for this particular class, like I said, we'll be looking at AWS CloudTrail, AWS Config, and then the integration between both of them. I intend to talk on the benefits of AWS CloudTrail, how it works, use case scenarios, AWS Config itself, the benefits of AWS Configs, how it works, and the use case scenarios, and then the integration itself between AWS CloudTrail and AWS Config. Okay, so in case you're wondering, just in case you're wondering, AWS CloudTrail itself is it's an AWS service, like I said, right? This service is already in existence, and one of the basic functionality of the service is that it enables you to be able to carry out things like auditing, governance, and compliance within your AWS account. So it's like, let me call it, the reason it's called a cloud trail. I don't know. I think the name basically was coined from the fact that for every move you make in the cloud, there's a trail being left behind. So I'm let me say from the name itself, you should be able to understand what the service does. Right. So all is just trying to say is this: in order for you not to be lost, or in order for you to keep wondering, oh, what's going on? What's going on? I don't know who did this, I don't know who did that. The service itself comes together to ensure that you can tie who did what, on what resource was that done, and when was it done. Right. So that's the beautiful thing about it. And some of the benefits of AWS CloudTrail, like you can see, is that it protects your organization from penalties such as so penalties using cloud trade logs to prove compliance with such regulations. So of course you know that every organization is bound by the laws governing what that organization does, depending on how you are making use of AWS service, right? So one of the things it helps you to do is that you are not going to be sanctioned by any of these bodies for not having a history of what was done, or where it was done, or on what resources it was done, because you have AWS CloudTrail in place. Also, it helps you to improve your security posture, meaning that in this sense, you can be able to understand who did what and when what was done and on what resources it was done, right? So you will be able to understand that, making use of the or going through the AWS CloudTrail logs. Also, it helps you to capture and consolidate your user activity, API usage across your AWS regions in a single central location, like in a single platform. You are able to take account of all of these services, how they were used, when they were used, and all of that. So, I mean, rather than going to several tabs to check, oh, who did this, when was this done, you have everything all in one place, and then you can scan, read through, and then you vet from there. All right, moving on. How does AWS CloudTrail works, right? What is the mechanism behind it, or what is the functionality behind it? As you can see here, it says AWS CloudTrail monitors and records account activity across your AWS infrastructure. Taking a look at this diagram, you will see here what, or a sample or an idea of what the AWS CloudTrail does. As you can see within the box, we see a store, meaning a store could be an S3 bucket or an Amazon CloudWatch log, right? And also you see a monitor. The monitor could be things that detect maybe unusual activities within, right? Or provide insights on your CloudTrail logs. Also, you see analyze. So, in cases where you are wondering, how do you analyze what just happened, or what activity just happened? All of these are all incorporated into the AWS CloudTrail. So, the AWS CloudTrail is able to record all of these activities happening within these entities: the store, the monitoring, and the analyzing. So, I mean, you can actually sit down on your AWS CloudTrail platform and take analysis of whatever is happening in your environment. So moving on, let's see what are the several use cases of AWS CloudTrail. One of the, will I say, important use cases of AWS CloudTrail is being able to monitor, store, validate events for authenticity. In other words, you are able to audit your environment. Those of you who come from the accounting background will understand what auditing is all about. You is like your check and balance. You want to be able to know who did what, when did what was done, on what resource was it done. You want to be able to understand this so you can be able to tell and have a record that gives details of all of this happening. So that's one of the use cases for the AWS CloudTrail. Another particular use case for the AWS CloudTrail is you are able to identify security incidents on time. I mean, with this, you are able to easily detect. So, of course, we know your logs, stores, and all of that. You're able to see the activities happening. But then, as you are able to see the activities happening, how do you easily detect? CloudTrail will help you do that because why? It recognizes who, what, and when information in the CloudTrail event were done. So, knowing who, what, and when, you are able to track scenarios or events that are abnormal, or all those events that are different from what you regularly see. With just a few minutes of just taking a look at your AWS CloudTrail logs, you are able to tell already what is going on. Also, this now helps you. You're able to now tell what is going on. It takes us to the next use case, which is troubleshooting operational issues. Because you now understand what is the regular behavior of your environment or what happens in your client space, you are then able to troubleshoot. Because okay, for instance, this is the amount of heat we get on our API endpoint, and then all of a sudden you see a higher number or a lower number. Ordinary seeing that figure tells you, oh, something is wrong. This is an anomaly, and then you can then proceed to troubleshooting and going about resolving whatever the issue was. So that's one of the beauty of AWS CloudTrail. So I'm going to move on to AWS Config. Remember, I told you that we will be discussing basically about AWS CloudTrail. We will talk about AWS Config, and we will then now discuss how two of them converges or integrates together to give us, that particular wholesome service that we are looking at. And like I said, the beautiful thing about this is that AWS is always wanting to ensure that work is easily done for you without stressing yourself. So AWS config, as you all know, provides a detailed view of the configuration of your resources. I mean, just with the functions which are listed for AWS config, it generally just lists you or tells you what resources and your environment, how were they configured, what is the settings done. You are able to find out with just probably one click or one command, and then you get all these values staring right at you. And you may be wondering, so I mean, if AWS config is already existing, what is now its benefit to us? So, one of the things that AWS config helps us to do is it helps us to continually assess and monitor our resources. Also, your configurations too. So, say for instance, Ali is making a change on this particular resource. You are able to tell what Ali did on the resource. You are able to see configuration changes, and then it helps you to also simplify the or manage the changes which is being done by Ali or whoever is on your team. You understand? So that's one basic use or benefit of AWS Config. Another thing is that it helps us to audit and evaluate compliance of your resource configuration. So, you know, we spoke earlier about auditing as being one of the major key tools that AWS CloudTrail does too. And the same thing with AWS Config. AWS Config is able to tell you what happened, what really happened, what exactly was the change done. So with AWS Config, you can see a past change and then a recent change that was done. So it helps you then to audit and evaluate, okay, these changes done, are they in compliance with your policy within the organization or not? You are able to tell with AWS config. And then you're also able to simplify your operational troubleshooting procedures, right? And then correlate which of the changes in particular are related to a particular event. You understand? So generally, what AWS config is helping you do is simplify your troubleshooting process. If at the click of just a command, you can be able to tell what happened to this EC2 instance. Oh, what is the IP address? What is the day it was created? What is the VPC it's connected to? All of those things, all within the click of one button. You're able to tell all of this information, and then you now know, okay, how to carry out a troubleshooting or some troubleshooting if you experience any changes in your particular environment. All right, moving on. How does the AWS config works? How does it work? You can see here, basically, this diagram is telling us about the continuous assessment, auditing, and evaluating of the configurations in relationship with the resources in AWS, whether it's on-premise or on the cloud. You are able to assess all of the changes on your resource. Now, taking a look at this diagram, you are able to see here that AWS config would help you to manage. By managing, we mean discovering your resources, recording configurations, and understanding its relationship with and capturing changes within your environment. Also, you are able to evaluate changes that were made within the environment, and also check the configs in terms of compliance and how they are managed, right? It also helps you to simplify the conformance packs. So with the use of the conformance packs to easily deploy multiple rules, remediate, and across your account, you are able to resolve issues faster. So because you already know what VPC and EC2 instance is tied to, you are then able to go straight to that VPC and see, okay, what's the error here? Why is this happening? Is this route not configured? And then from there, you can make progress to understand what the issue really is. All right, moving ahead, we will be taking a quick look at the use cases. What are the use cases of AWS config? One of the use case of AWS config is the ability to streamline operational troubleshooting. So imagine the fact that, okay, you want to be able to reduce the amount of time troubleshooting is done. With AWS config, like I said earlier, if you are supposed to connect to a particular EC2 instance, and by default, you understand that a public IP ought to be connected to that instance, but then you are not getting any public IP and you are not able to connect to the instance, what is the logical thing to do? The first thing you will want to do is to confirm, is there actually a public IP address attached to this instance? Once you are able to verify with your AWS config or by checking on the portal that there's no public IP attached to the EC2 instance, then you can now start troubleshooting. Oh, why is there no public IP attached? You understand? Or did you mistakenly not create it? Or was it created and by for some reason it just didn't get attached? You understand? So all of this helps you to streamline your troubleshooting steps and procedures so that you don't go on a wild goose chase, trying to, oh, where's the error coming from? What's happening here? And all of that. You understand? Another thing that AWS Config helps you to do is to deploy a compliance as code framework. So you know that in AWS, right, using various code formats as you would like, whether you're using CloudFormation, Terraform to deploy your resources, you are then able to, like I said here, specify what rules you want in your particular environment. Once you are able to specify what rules, you then know, okay, this is how we want this particular resource to be deployed. We want to auto ensure that this particular resource is always done by automation. By this, you can then tell what changes may have been done on that particular S3 bucket, if it was initially destroyed, scheduled for destruction, or if not, what is actually the step to ensure somebody doesn't just go and mistakenly delete that S3 bucket. So, or maybe for some instance, delete a file inside of the S3 bucket. So with all of this, you can put some rules and regulations down using AWS config. You can also able audit using security monitors and analysis feature of the AWS config. As you can see here, it says evaluate resource configurations for potential vulnerabilities, right? So you can be able to review the current configurations that were done, and then you can be able to it helps you to identify, okay, is this particular configuration done, is it vulnerable for attacks, has it opened the room for somebody to be able to attack you or attack your environment, or coming into your environment to do some malicious activities. So this is one of the use cases for the AWS config. um Now, basically looking at the CloudTrail lake integration with AWS config. Remember, one of the things I made mention to you was the fact that the CloudTrail has been existing from time. It's been existing from time. And one of the things you want to do is you want to be able to, how do you merge these two together? Say, for instance, Ali comes into your environment and created an S3 bucket at, let's say, 9:02 p.m. What? Right? One of the things the CloudTrail integration with AWS config will do is to tell you who logged when Ali logged on and that activity he carried. So with this, you are able to now see who performed the action, and then from AWS CloudTrail, you are then able to tell on what resource was that action performed, right? You are able to tell on what resource was that action performed. So, I mean, with that, you would get to know and see and understand, where those changes happen, when they happened, right? So at this point, I'll be sharing something. Just a moment. Just a moment. Yes. I want to share this. Okay, good. All right. So just permit me to share my screen. Yes. All right. Okay, I would just bring this down so I am able to share my screen. Yeah, all right. Okay, so I believe you should be able to see my screen now. Yes. So as I was speaking, I made mention of the fact that the CloudTrail integration with AWS Config helps you to identify who, when, and which activity was carried out within your environment. So if you take a look at this particular diagram you see here, there is something I want to bring to your understanding. This is called an event data store, right? An event data store is a very peculiar feature that helps to it serves as like a storage, an immutable storage that helps with the integration of the two, both the Cloudflare Lake and then your AWS config settings. So for instance, now you want to be able to integrate the two, you need somewhere where all of these things will come together. And that place where both of them come together, your AWS CloudTrail logs and all of that, and then your AWS configurations, both of them can be stored in your event data store. Your event data store, right, serves as that storage that can be used to to store the two services, or let me say two, what I call them, outputs from the two services. So say for instance now, let me give you an instance where you try to be able to do one or two things, right? You try to be able to do one or two things, and you want to be able to query who did what. Now, AWS provides you with that ability to run a query from your event data store. Remember, I mentioned to you that your event data store is that storage where you can bring outputs from your CloudTrail log and then your configurations in your AWS config into one place, and then you can query them, or you can query you know your event data store for all those changes that happened, and then you can say, okay, this was carried out at this time by Ali of this particular department, and this was the action Ali carried out, and it was on this resource that Ali did this. So you see here it says one of the this event data store we spoke about is something very major when you need to do this integration. But for you to be able to carry out this integration, there's one thing that really has to be done, which is to set up for all your AWS accounts, right? You want to be able to what's the word? You want to be able to set up for the accounts and the regions for which your CloudTrail deliver your deliver the configuration items from. So your AWS config recorder must be set up. Now, this AWS config recorder that needs to be set up will work with your event data store. Your AWS config recorder will work with your event data store. So that is the config changes or happenings on your account are then being transferred, or you can query them into your event data store, which will then be used or queried to get the data you're looking for. So let's take for instance, let me see. Okay, so let me show you this. Okay, now you remember this AWS data store I told you, it's very key. Even when you enable your, which is a prerequisite, that you enable your AWS config recorder on all the accounts which you want to be queried from, those um enablement you've done for your AWS config recorder, can those events can then be brought into the event data store to store the configuration changes or the configuration items. So you can see here it says your CloudTrail lake uses the event data store to store configuration item from AWS Config. And you can see one very important thing you have to note is that the event data store itself is an immutable storage. The word immutable should be emphasized here, because when I say immutable, it means that I'm saying that to the perspective means that you yourself can't destroy it. Why? Because of the information it carries. Of course, you can raise a ticket to AWS for if the need arises, right? Now, when you have your CloudTrail event, right, in your data store, and then your AWS config in your data store, you can then run queries on them. So, for instance, you can see here an example of a sample query that can be done. You can see here it says select event data dot configuration, event data dot account id, event data dot aws region, event data dot resource id. With all of these, you can then filter from your config eds id and then specify the time where event time is equal to 2022 11/21, and you can even specify the minutes. So you can put a range of time, and then you can now say order by event data dot resource creation time, and you can give a limit. Right. So generally, this tells you a kind of query you can run to query that event data store for some of these changes that have happened within your environment. Now, a sample that just shows, looking at this diagram, you can see it is not really a diagram, but more like a setup configuration on how you can create your event data store, which is one, you log into your AWS environment, navigate to your CloudTrail console, and then you choose your lake, and then from there to your event data store, and then you're able to create an event data store. Specify your name, the retention period, the encryption, the tags, and then you're good to go, and you're able to create one. So, I mean, this just gives you an overview generally on how AWS has been able to integrate the AWS CloudTrail service with the AWS config, and how you can be able to query this integrated service to get information on what you need of relating who did what on which resources and when that particular activity was done. So I think at this time I'm good to go, if I'm not mistaken here. This was a major resource I used while working on this. So I mean, it's something you can always take a look on to get a better understanding. And at this time, I think I would just say thank you all. It's been an amazing training session. um, I guess I would say it's time for the quiz. And of course, the quiz time is a happy time, because I mean, those who actually paid attention are able to reap the benefits. So, Blessing, I don't know if you want to be able to handle this session. Hello, Blessing, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm here.
All right.
I've been here all while. So,
All right.
how pumped are we for the quiz session?
I mean, I'm sure they are all quizzed up and ready. I'm sure they are quizzed up
Okay,
and
okay,
ready.
okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen
Yeah, please do.
and we'll take it up from
Sure,
there.
sure, definitely.
So, can we see my screen? And okay,
You can click on the start button, please, session, so it generates screen for
Yes.
you.
We're waiting for the players to join. Please, if you're on the call, kindly join. If
Yeah,
you
I think
can see my screen,
you will need to start it
can you see
first
my
before it
screen?
joins. Yeah, I can see your screen. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, I'm waiting for players. Is when the players come, that's when they can join.
No,
That's when
but
I
I
can
think
start.
you are probably sharing the wrong screen if I'm not mistaken, because what I can see is the screen that shows Kahoot. You want to show the screen that shows the pin. Do
Let
you
me
have that
send the
screen up?
pin. Yes, the screen is up. Let me send the pin.
Then I think you are
Okay, and then
sharing
I'll
the wrong screen.
stop sharing.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. I'll share a different one.
Okay, all right, okay.
Okay. Can you all see my screen? Oh,
Yes,
Christian,
yes,
welcome.
yes, yes.
Tolu on the call. Trex, that's Tolu. And his partner in crime is not on this call. So if we wait for 3 more minutes and we don't have more people joining us, we'll go ahead and start. And maybe today we'll have just two winners for this session.
Oh, so I'm actually seeing some questions right now. I don't know if I see some
Please go
questions
ahead
from
and answer
Chris.
it while we're waiting.
Okay, so Christian says, so AWS CloudTrail keeps tab of activities within your account region, etc. Yes, yes, it does. It does. Um, Chris also says, shouldn't it be a default service within an AWS account since it monitors and records all activities? Well, one thing I can say is that no, I wouldn't say any service itself is default, because what you enable is what you pay for. You understand? So I wouldn't say it's a default service, but of course, if it's something you would like to be default, I mean, that's a go-to. Is a plus for you. And Chris also says, is CloudTrail part of the AWS security product line? Yes, 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 yes. I would say it is. One, because remember, this is a AWS security cloud user group, right? So some of the things we try to focus on are some of the security side of things like this. So yes, it is, because I mean, take for instance, there is a hack on your environment. You understand? One of the places you want to go to is you want to be able to see whoever did the hack. Was there a trail of whatever was done? Was AWS able to record when it was done, how it was done, who did it, and on what resource was it performed in? So yes, I would say it's a security service. Um okay, I
Okay,
think
okay,
that's it for
Precious,
now.
then we can go ahead, yes, and start.
Yes,
So
yes.
we are starting. We can't wait to see you guys perform. First question, AWS.
Okay, no, this is just the title, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. True
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
false? AWS
Mm.
CloudTrail is an AWS service that helps you enable operational and risk auditing and compliant AWS accounts. And the time is going.
Interesting. Let's see. It's like Fauza is not around today. Oh.
No,
I've not
she's
heard
not.
from Fauza. What of Tolu? Is Tolu around?
So please here, Trex.
Tolu is here. Oh, interesting.
Yes.
I think those were the popular guys I know the last time. Well, I'm expecting to
Let's
see
just
some.
leave them.
I'm
Let's
expecting to
leave
see
them so
some new
they can
charms
concentrate.
today. Yes, so
Yes,
we have only four answers in already. Wow, time is
yes.
going, guys. Time is going, guys.
Ooh. So we
Nice,
have
nice, nice, nice. I see
okay.
everyone was paying attention. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. That was one of the bonus questions anyway, but let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
So we have Wow, we have Trex leading. So Trex,
Uh-huh.
if you win today, I'm going to take your credits. Me personally, I will bully you. Okay, on to the next question. Second, keyword identified with AWS config are keywords identified with AWS config are.
Let's see who gets this one. Let's see who gets this one. Chris says, "Bring it on. We are hot and ready." That's
Chris is
nice.
definitely hot. Yes, he is.
That's nice. That's nice. I love that spirit.
Oh, and the results are in. Wow. And everyone, so
Interesting.
let's see who has it all.
Yeah.
Ooh. Ayobami, wow, that's a sweet surprise.
Wow. That
Okay,
I'm
let's go.
telling
The
you.
ultimate. Okay,
I didn't
I'm
see the
impressed.
ultimates coming. Well, Trex has been there one day and Lizzie. Ah, I see the
Please keep
upcoming
it up.
artists. The
Okay.
upcoming. So let's see how this goes.
Use cases of AWS CloudTrail are.
What are the use cases of AWS CloudTrail? I know we really, really spoke into depth on this. Who is going to win this one? Blessing, do you think who was actually topping the charts?
Is
Who
Ayobami and the
Ayobami was
ultimate
topping the
second.
charts.
Tolu,
And the
Tolu is
ultimate.
just a green snake in a green grass. So
Well,
let's
well,
fight
let's see if
for
Tolu comes back to
three.
reclaim his throne.
Ooh. Okay.
Interesting,
So
interesting, interesting.
yes, let's see. Oh, Tolu,
Looks
is it
like
because I said I'll give you
Ayobami.
credit? Ayobami is here to stay. Chris, where are you? You said you're going home with this. Okay, let's go next. And we have our next quiz. Which of the
Hey.
following are regulations used to prove compliance in AWS CloudTrail?
Yeah, which of the
Which of the
following
following are
are
regulations?
regulations used to prove compliance in AWS CloudTrail? So I remember speaking about this when I was talking about AWS CloudTrail. Yes, Tolu, you can't pick more than one, so just pick any of the ones that are actually correct. Just pick any of the ones that are actually correct, and you're good to go. One thing you have to know is that in this game, speed matters. Speed and
And
accuracy
accuracy, yes.
matters. So let's see who is going to top the charts. I
Okay, I think
see.
all of them had answered and we just had
Interesting.
to end it. So,
Interesting. So I think we have
so
one more
let's,
question. And then let's
yes,
see.
just,
One day,
oh my God.
where did one day come from? One day,
Where is
nice.
Trex? Trex, please come to us
Check.
with us, even if it's 25 credits. I need it
Well,
because I'm going to bully you.
I still see Christian. Christian still,
True or
he showed
false?
up.
An event data store isn't an immutable storage location within CloudTrail. An
Yeah,
event
yeah,
data store isn't an immutable storage location within CloudTrail.
yeah. I know this was one of the ones I spoke so much about. So let's see how this goes.
Promise, I think
Let's
you
see.
spoke so much about all of them because each question that keeps popping up, you say is the one. So you just spoke so much about all of them. So stop
Yes,
picking a
because
favorite
the
and picking
thing is,
sides.
I actually made references to them so that whoever will be answering these questions wouldn't be, oh, and be like, oh, I didn't know when this. Wow, some people
All
actually
right, so we are
picked
having our
true.
review.
Wait,
Yes.
blessing, wait, just wait. So this was a trick question. This was a
Yes.
trick question. So
An
if
event that
you
you
really
thought
paid
isn't.
attention, you would know that there is an isn't in the question.
Yes, isn't
And
an
that's
immutable, is not immutable.
exactly. The idea
So that
of
means it
this
is an
was to
immutable
hide.
storage.
Exactly. So I kept emphasizing the fact that it is immutable, right? But people who probably picked true didn't see isn't. And that's why they did that. All right,
Yes,
so we can
it
go on.
happens. Da, da,
Chris
da,
said we are cheating
da.
him with his network. All
Oh, the
answers are in
ultimate.
it. The ultimate
Check.
took turns.
Wow.
Nah, who's gonna be the first? Ayobami, Lizzie from
Lizzie!
where? When?
From
Where did
where?
Lizzie
What the-
come from? Wow, Christian and one day, I think Christian was fourth, one day was fifth. But you know, I was actually thinking one day was going to win. What happened?
I wonder where they came from. Just the
This
magic. You know,
this is
miracles
an
happen.
interest. I'm telling you, this is an interesting turn actually. Well, I knew
Yeah.
Trex has been there, the ultimate has been there, but the person I didn't see coming was Lizzie. I think that was
Yes,
a
I
very
didn't see
very
Lizzie
nice one.
coming.
Congratulations, Lizzie. Lizzie, you have done amazingly well. You have done amazingly well. So one of the things we are going to do is this. The first three, kindly email us your LinkedIn profile. If you're on Twitter, please share your Twitter ID and send that mail to this address. Let me
I'm
see
going to
if.
share it.
Oh, okay, great,
Just hold on a little while I get it up.
great.
Okay, so I think you can, and
Oh, Elizabeth Ogumola. Wow, that was really impressive, Lizzie, because I didn't see you coming. Honestly, I didn't see you coming. You just all of a sudden, swooped in and did
so
the
can you
needful. I
see it?
mean, congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
Yes,
So,
please do send your email. Send an email to this email with your name, your full name, your LinkedIn profile link, your Twitter handle, and send it to this and state your position, the position that you took with
yeah,
your Kahoot nickname. That's the
yeah,
username
true.
you used of Kahoot, your full name, your LinkedIn profile link, and your Twitter handle. Please send it to AWS Cloud Sec West Africa at gmail.com. If you don't know this, or if you miss it, try to search us on LinkedIn. You'll be able to easily find us, and maybe you can ask in any of the comments or search for me, Blessing Ogechi Nwojiji, and ask for the link to the email handle for our user group, and I will send it to you. Congratulations once again, and thank you very much, Promise, for this wonderful time. I'm very proud of the ultimate. I think he even missed the first question, and
I
then he
think
came
so.
and yes,
Yeah.
and he came third. And Tolu did the magic that he usually does. Tolu, I'm bullying you. Just I'm bullying you this time
But
around.
then
And Lizzie,
Lizzie said
Lizzie.
MTN favored her this time around. So Lizzie, what did
Oh,
MTN do for you? How did MTN do this for you, Lizzie? Because you need to explain. You need to explain how was it MTN that did it for you? Eh? But
and
anyway,
after all
congratulations.
Chris's and after all Chris's mouth,
Chris
he did.
actually
So
came
you
fourth. Chris came fourth,
But he
followed
said
by
he was
one
taking
day.
it home to Liberia, and unfortunately,
Oh,
so Liberia is not getting this today. So we have
well,
another session
well,
tomorrow. So
well,
hopefully tomorrow you'll be able to take it home to Liberia. Just make sure you dial in early and listen
true,
attentively. The
true,
beautiful thing is
true.
that for all the session, the quizzes are strictly based on what is taught for that particular session. So no one goes
Yes.
to get knowledge or topic that is taught outside that. So once, if you, as far as you listen to the teachings or the sessions attentively, you'll be able to pick. And the beautiful thing is that the questions are quite easy. So it's not one that
Yes.
cracking. It's easy. It's people like me, those of us that are not intelligent that set the question. So if I can answer it, then you can answer it. So it's very
And
easy. It's
I, I,
ABC.
I
You know, you
I
guys
also
are good.
I also think they need to also look out for the twist in the questions. They should pay
Yeah.
attention to also look out for the twist. And one beautiful thing about Kahoot is that it considers who was the first person to select the answer, and then uses that in to do his configuration of on who is the first or the second and the third. But I mean, you guys did amazingly well today, and I'm so impressed. Lizzie, congratulations to you once more. I'm so impressed.
So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining in. And we are happy that you guys also took a break with us last week. Once again, for those that were not notified or those that planned to attend last week's sessions but didn't know that we had a break, we apologize once again for that. But be rest assured that we are on. And in case we have any break in transmission whatsoever again, then we're going to communicate it duly. Then also bear in mind, we're preparing for our community day that is coming up on the 19th. That's going to be a hybrid event, but we really love to have you all present physically. It's going to come up on the 19th of August. More details will be passed across on our various social media platforms. So please do stay tuned, keep your ears on the ground, pay attention to your emails, and be prepared because we're going to have a blast. It's not just going to be learning, we're going to have fun, we're going to have quizzes, we're going to have more gifts to be won, and we're having amazing, amazing guests. We're having speakers, we're having guests flying from different countries to join us for that day. So if you are in Lagos or if you're around Lagos, do ensure that you find yourself to the venue that day. Stay glued to our social media handles so that you'll be able to know the exact venue that we're going to use to be able to attend it. See you there, see you tomorrow, and see you for the rest of the session. We're
Thank
expecting
you,
your
guys.
great
Pay
day.
attention to our LinkedIn page as well. That's our official means of communication. So please also
Yes.
pay attention to our LinkedIn page, and we hope to have you all there. Thank you, guys. It was an amazing session today.